Today's talk is, who have you come here to be? Who have you come here to be? And as many of you know, I'm from the East Coast. And so they were getting slammed by snow, right? Big blizzard came through. And as I was watching that, I thought, oh, all that snow, and yet each snowflake is different, is unique on such a microscopic level. Which then leads me to, well, as people, human beings, we all have individual fingerprints. That's what we use, right, when they try to identify us. No two are the same. And then I thought, well, what about our soul? And I believe that our souls are uniquely different as well. That we are given gifts that we need to share with others. Each one of us, uniquely different. But like the snowflake, it's part of the whole, part of the snow. Just like with our fingerprints, we are part of humanity, the human race. And so with our soul, where's the wholeness? Connecting to source and connecting to the truth of we are all connected. So spiritual gifts. First quote. Spiritual gifts are spiritual development, the beingness, plus sacred service, which is about being out there doing things. And that's easy to say when things are going really, really well. Right? I'm like, yes, we've got some spiritual gifts. But what happens when something happens that you may not perceive as going really well? For example, Graham got laid off on Friday. Think about what your belief is that just popped through your head when you heard that message. What just popped through your head when you heard that message? Because if the universe is for us, it's not just what we like. If the universe is for us, then Graham and I trust that this is for our highest good. That's not lip service. You know that about me. You know that whatever I'm walking through and going through, I will share with you and tell you what I'm doing and what's making a shift for me. Cherie about 10 years ago would have been like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We need a game plan. Okay, did you call? I would have been all like that. Poor guy. That would have so not helped him, right? Now, I ask myself, what do I believe in? What do I believe in? I believe the universe is here for us. I believe that this is for our highest good. I believe that he gets to have like a cool vacation, you know, and that something bigger and better than we know or can imagine. This is driving me crazy. I don't know if it's driving you crazy. Will come into being. True, but it gets recorded, so that's why we use it, yeah. All right. So, we're talking about discovering gifts. Now, if Graham believed that that's all he is, his job, bringing home money to the family. If Graham really believed that, then what would his essence be like today? Wow. Right? Really low. Really the sense of not belonging, not being part of, not being valued. And for women who have that kind of drive as well, and I'm one of them, I'll tell you, that's very similar for us as well. But he knows different. That his job is not who he is. There is so much more to him. He's got gifts that are just amazing. And so that's why I harp on and on and on. And you're like, oh, is she going to say that again? Yes! Yes, I am. About the truth of what we are. That we are divine beings having this human experience. But we get here and we get so indoctrinated in culture that we forget. We forget. We think this is who we are. Well, I've got a nice home, 2.2 children, 2.5, a little dog, right? Great house, white picket fence. That defines us. No, it doesn't. What does define us is discovering our truth, discovering who we really are. So, discovering our gifts adds meaning and purpose to us. It allows us to live a purpose-filled life. It allows us to do and be the things that we value most. And when we value those things, it awakens our passion. Doesn't it, Joe? It awakens our passion. Joe is like on fire. She's like politically on fire, protesting everywhere. So she's in her element right now. So she has a purpose-filled life. All right, so I'm going to go to the second quote. And this comes from UWM's Spiritual Gifts Discovery Guide, and that's what we'll be using for the class that starts on Thursday. A purposeful life is one in which we are able to be the action of those values. This then helps you to become the action of those values, because without action, it's just a concept. It's just an idea. It's just a belief. So where do these spiritual gifts come from? They come from the universe. They come from whatever you want to talk about your higher power, call your higher power, whether it's God or Allah or the universe or love or principle. That's where they come from. They come for us to live enriched lives as well as how we benefit other people. And if we don't use it, it's just a waste. It's like being given a pearl and you're going, I really wish I had a diamond. That would have been so much nicer. But that pearl is precious. Do you say that about your gifts? Do you say that about your gifts? So what are the spiritual gifts? Spiritual gifts, they say, they're defined. And when I did my research, it was from 7 all the way to 16. And basically, they're pulling out text that tells what the spiritual gifts are. Okay? So I'm pulling from 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 through 11. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. To one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge according to the same Spirit. To another faith by the same Spirit. To another gifts of healing by the one Spirit. To another the working of miracles. To another prophecy. To another the discernment of spirits. To another various kinds of tongues. To another the interpretation of tongues. All these are activated by one and the same Spirit, who allots to each one individually, just as the Spirit chooses. So, as I was doing my research, it was really interesting to see that there's certain faiths and churches and communities that believe this is it. These are the only spiritual gifts. These are the only spiritual gifts that we have. And if we don't have one of those, then we don't have spiritual gifts. And we've seen it in churches such as the Pentecost, right? They believe that once the Spirit of the Holy Spirit is upon you, you will be able to speak in tongues. But if that's not yours, then what? Maybe you feel like less than? Like, or you fake it, or you fake it. Yes. And so that's what happened when we narrow things down and say it can only be this. It can only look this way. So I'm going to do a little backdrop on 1 Corinthians. This is a letter to the people of Corinth from Paul the apostle. He has gone there and he has done a missionary, and there's like a Christian community there. And someone comes and visits Paul and says, dude, do you know what they're doing in Corinth? You will not believe it. But they are saying the only spiritual gift that is like high above everything else are for people who are talking in tongues. And let me not even tell you what they're doing sexually. So now this letter comes because Paul is writing back to these folks and saying, you know, that's really not how it goes. So he's doing practical Christianity at this point, right? He's saying to them, look, they're this gift, this gift, this gift. They're all equal. They all come from the same place. They all have merit. And these are not the only ones. Keep that in mind. And they are not the only ones. So let's just talk about those that I mentioned in Corinthians. We've got prophecy. What's prophecy? Basically, what I do. Standing up here and saying what I see as the truth from the universe. So that's the spiritual gift. And we also get talents. Now, sometimes we use spiritual gifts and talents interchangeably. You can, it's okay. But really the talents is how do we manifest the gift? With me? Okay. And then we have wisdom, we have knowledge, we have faith. What is faith? Come on, my students. Okay, that is wisdom. Good. What else? Bingo. Believing in what you cannot see. Awesome. We have healing, miracles, discernment, speaking in tongues, and interpreting tongues. All right? So if that was all that there was, and I didn't feel like I fit into one of those categories, then what happens to me? Feeling less than, yes. Good. So there are more spiritual gifts than these. It's kind of like saying et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So keep that in mind. There's this lovely quote from the Agape movement, Agape Live, and they talk about sacred service. Sacred service ministry honors the spiritual practice of service as a way of life. It is a place where we outwardly express who we inwardly are by sharing our gifts and talents. In doing so, we create a strong sense of community while expanding our hearts and fulfilling our souls. So there's this story that I read about a mom who had tweens, pre-teenagers. And she's one of those folks that just could see the sacred in people. And there's a bang at her door. She comes running. And there's this little kid that says, you got to come quick. There's been a fight. So she goes out and she finds her son was in a fight, and his hand is really painful. So they rush to the emergency room. It is broken. They get a cast put on. Happened during the fight. She comes back home, she settles him in, and then she's like, I'm going to go see this kid. So she goes over, knocks on the door. I'm here to see your son, the father answers. And the father goes, he's not here. And she says, I know he's here. And she kind of just peeks in around, and the child is standing behind the dad, like trembling and nervous. And she says to the son, I know that you have been yelled at, disciplined all day long after this. But I'm here to tell you that I love you and I want to give you a hug. He starts sobbing. The parents are crying because that hasn't been their experience of our humanity, of our soul sharing. So in that moment, through her talent of seeing the divine in people, she is manifesting healing. Do you get me? She's manifesting healing. So in that moment, it's not about service being this all-consuming, really big project that you can't do because you don't have enough time to do. Please don't ask me to do anything else. Doesn't have to be that. That was a small situation that she turned into healing. And this quote backs me up. This comes from Samik Raha, who also wrote about the story about the mom that I just shared with you. And he wrote an article entitled Sacred Service for the Huffington Post. Sacred service is not heavy. It makes one feel incredibly light. Some people call it selfless service, referring to the practice of emptying oneself of ego. But selfless service seems like hard work. On the contrary, those who serve selflessly have a great lightness of being. Nothing needs doing, and yet great action emanates from being. The outer appearance of helping someone pales in insignificance when the merit of sacredness dances its way into our heart, dissolving boundaries and small egos. So I invite you to come on Thursday to the class, Discovering Your Spiritual Gifts. It'll be for 4 weeks. On Thursday, starts at 5:30 for an hour and a half. Even if you think you know what your spiritual gifts are and may have forgotten, this is the place for you to be. If you know your spiritual gifts and haven't found a way to utilize them and move with them, that's the place to be. And if, by some chance, one of your spiritual gifts is healing, you may decide to be a wish granter, like this gentleman in this clip.